Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live stream. I'm James, of course, and joining me once again is Tim NesSmith from the USS KIDD Veterans Museum. We are live both on my channel and the kids' channel. Tim, how you doing? How was your week?
Week's pretty good. Starting Wednesday, things accelerated all the way up to today, so I'm a little wiped
Okay,
out from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But other than that, forward progress.
excellent. Well, it is August 1st, which means if memory serves, the ship had to have been out of dry dock by last month if you guys didn't secure any type of extra funding. Uh, but she's still there.
Correct.
Anything you can tell us about that?
We achieved the fundraising goals that we wanted, so that we could continue a little bit of work. And of course, Molly and Omar. Omar had life happen, and so he wasn't able to stick with the social media team. And Molly had to get a real job with a real paycheck, real money. We all have to do that, I guess. I never did. I don't
Exactly.
know. I feel like I never did, but anyway. So Molly is still helping out and harassing me on text every once in a while, but that's okay because I harass her right back. And our new team member, Alcy, came on board. He had some commitments in May and June that he had to finish up before he could jump on board, hot and heavy. And so right now he's working. We were going to drop a video this past weekend talking about all this, but there's so much that we're going to be doing over the next 4 months that he threw it up and let me look at it. And I'm like, yeah, we're not going to hold an audience with that. We're going to have to make this a two-parter. So he's re-editing in a hurry and trying to get it ready. So hopefully maybe by Sunday, but I told him not to rush it, make it good. And hopefully Monday, Tuesday, something like that, we'll be able to drop part one of that and then roll into part two.
Okay.
So, yeah. So
So,
we'll be updating everybody on what we're doing in the shipyard.
excellent. So the new timetable, and I know you don't have exact dates or anything. So, but are we looking at October, November-ish?
October 25th at midnight and 1 minute. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, man, that's detail.
That's detail. And 36 seconds. No, probably sometime late October, I'm guessing, is when she'll come out of dry dock. Will she leave the yard at that point? I don't know. That's all. Everything from coming out of dry dock to getting back to Baton Rouge is still in limbo, still under discussion. The key factor for those that don't live in Louisiana and don't know how the Mississippi River works, the key factor is going to be the river levels, the river stages, as to when we can get back in at Baton Rouge into the cradle. So
Right.
that's a huge determining factor. And odds are, historically, that's always been around April or May. I mean, we got out the last week of April, and we left Baton Rouge, in fact, on April 30th of 2024. So you can look around that time frame. You can start getting excited, unless the river just acts strange as it did in 2019 and comes up in January and stays up till September. But that I've never seen it do that before.
Right.
So
Well, before we get into our topic tonight, there was some sad news that you guys shared recently on your social media, and what I'm talking about is the passing of a former crew member and volunteer at the museum. Of course, we're talking about Leroy Jenkins, and you attended the Mr. Jenkins funeral today, correct?
yes, the funeral was this morning about 11 o'clock, and went. It was up at Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Scotlandville in Baton Rouge, just outside of Baton Rouge, or still in Baton Rouge city limits, I think. I don't know if Scotlandville is incorporated. Doesn't matter. Um, but that was where he attended church, and a very, very nice ceremony, less of a stereotypical funeral and more of a celebration of life. And uh, I was very honored and honestly petrified that they asked me to say a few words, and nobody
That's
threw any
nice.
shoes at me. So apparently, I did a good job. So
I'm
um,
sure you
we're
did.
going to miss Lee greatly. He was with us for 14 years as a part-time staffer, greeting folks on the quarterdeck of the ship. You can see him. That's what he's doing in this picture. He'd be the first person that they would see when they walk on board. He'd give them all the safety spiel and the brochures and tell them how the tour route worked. And then they'd see the pictures and they'd look at him and look at the pictures, look at him, look at the pictures. Is this you? He's like, yeah, that's me. Oh my gosh, you're a real kid crewman. It's like they thought they were all dead in ancient Greek history or something. So,
Well, I think
yeah.
because most people, when they think of the ship, they tend to think of the people who served on her only during World War II,
Yeah.
which Mr. Jenkins served after the Korean War, correct?
1957, in fact. Yeah.
Okay.
His World Warships came down when the ship got put into the game, and they met him. And let me retract. World of Warships, when they were doing the not photogrammetry, but basically doing the photography on the ship for the designers back home in St. Petersburg. They met him at that time, and they came back with just so many stories about him and everything. And so when the gaming ship was finished and ready to be launched in game, they sent a crew back to Baton Rouge to do more filming and everything, which if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see a whole folder that takes you over to those specific World Warship videos. And one of them is called Ship Stories. And they asked me, we'd like to talk to some Fletcher class sailors and, get their time on board. And I'm like, what era you want? You want World War II, Cold War, Korea? They're like, any of them. So I called every Fletcher sailor that I knew, and Lee was one of them, and they came down and interviewed him. So that's out there. And then interviewing him and having met him in person, the previous time, the World of Warships folks just loved him. And I got contacted not long after that. So I think around 2021, something like that. And they said, we want to do something special. We want to put Mr. Jenkins into the game. And I don't play, so I don't know if you have guys walking around that you control or whatever. I learned after that you don't. But
No, you don't.
they said, we'll put him in the game. He'll be a commander. I said, well, he was just a seaman, right? And they're like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, okay. So he's a commander, and if you purchase the kid, then if you play certain missions with the kid in game, then you can earn Commander Seaman Leroy Jenkins, and he'll boost your stats in certain areas in gameplay. And trying to explain all of this to him, he didn't mess around with computers, certainly not with computer games, was kind of a challenge. And finally, I think he just tolerated it and was like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't understand it, but whatever. He liked it. He kept wanting me to show him the video, and I'm like, there's no video.
Right.
There's no video.
You're not an avatar in the game.
Yeah.
It's
but they asked me to write an article on him about, for the launch. And so I sat down with him for a few different days and just kind of picked his brain about he spent 6 months on board, and really had a unique experience. And learned a lot more about him than what I'd known, and put the article together, put it out to World of Warships, and then they published it. And there are so many people that come who play World of Warships still to this day, and they're like, is Mr. Jenkins here? Is Leroy Jenkins here? It's like, no, he retired, about 10 years ago. Oh, is he going to be around at any point? Does he visit? It's like, he visits, but not that much. His health, he's getting older. So
right.
He passed last week at age 91, and was
Gracious.
still going as health would allow him, would still go as strong as he could for as long as he could. So he's a fabulous American.
I have him in the game, but I actually did not earn him through KIDD. I earned him about a year before I got the KIDD in the game.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was possible.
So what it was, this was last year. Usually July, they do something in warships with earn an American ship of it's a different one every year. You got to go through these series of missions and you accumulate certain things. And I earned him on my way to eventually getting the California BB-44.
Okay.
Don't know if he ever had any ties to that ship in any way, but yeah, that's how I got it.
Which one was it?
USS California BB-44.
He lived in California for a huge part of his life.
Well, maybe they
connected that.
What did he do when he served on the ship? What would his roles have been?
Well, his story goes he signed up. He got a draft notice, went to New Orleans, sitting there with everybody, and he's going in the Army, and the Army wasn't ready for any of them. They were like, "You're going to have to all come back next week." Well, he traveled all the way from Mississippi, which, in 1957, traveling from southern Mississippi all the way down to New Orleans wasn't
not
easy.
Not as easy as it is now.
Not as easy as it is now. The interstate wasn't, I-55 wasn't there. It was a pain. And just as a bunch of them are leaving, and just as he's getting ready to walk out, frustrated, a Navy guy comes in, a recruiter comes in and says, "Hold up, boys. The Army doesn't need you till next week. Navy needs you right now. If you sign up for the Navy instead of the Army, instead of a 3-year enlistment, you're going to get a 2-year enlistment. Do I have any takers?" And Lee said, "My hand shot up. I was ready to get out of town. I didn't want to have to come back." So he signed up. They shipped him out. He did boot camp, and he was a crash firefighter on base at San Diego Naval Station for a year and a half. And of course, the military does everything in advance, and so except some things, but they were like, "You're going to re-up, right?" And he's like, "Nah, I think I'm done." And they're like, "Okay, so go over here, start your paperwork process, because it's going to take a while to get it all done." So he went to where he was told to go. They started doing his paperwork, and they looked through his file, and they're like, "You don't have any sea duty." And he's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "You haven't gone to sea on a ship." And he's like, oh no. He was thinking sea duty, and he said, "No, I've been a firefighter here on base the whole time." And they're like, "Yeah, the regs don't allow you to get out without 6 months of sea duty. You need to go to sea right now." And he's like, "What?" And they start stamping papers, right? And shuffling papers. And they're like, "We're going to get you out of here. KIDD leaves at 0800. And they're stamping stuff, handing paperwork, and said, "Be on it, 0800, pier number, whatever." And so he showed up and got on the ship. And you would think crash firefighter equates with damage control, right? Not so. Completely two different ratings, two different skill sets. And so he didn't have any skill sets for being aboard ship. He wasn't trained for it.
Right.
So, because everything was last minute. So what they did, there's a whole long story. I'll leave it for the viewers to go to our Facebook page or any of our social media. You'll find the post. Click on the links for World of Warships for the article and the video. It's better coming from him. It's better reading it than listening to me yak on about it. But whole comedy of errors with him coming on board and getting squared away. But eventually what they did, they found his scores. He was a pretty fair marksman. He had high marks in marksmanship when in his boot camp. And so when they were out at sea underway, his job was to walk around the deck perimeter and make sure nobody had fallen overboard. And that's all he did when he was on duty. And
Wow.
when they were in port, his job, they'd give him a rifle out of the small arms locker. And if anybody, swimmers, boats, whatever, come too close to the ship, fire a warning shot. If they ignore it, shoot to kill. And so
Wow.
he was guarding the ship. So, and they did that going, they went to Pago Pago, they went down to Wellington, New Zealand, they went to the Philippines, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, back and forth a couple of times to the Philippines, and then came back to San Diego. So for 6 months, he's just going on a round the world cruise. They found out he played baseball in the African American leagues and in high school, and they fell in love with that and put him on the team. And he said they won the Westpac pennant that year. And he got home and he got out. And then he played professional baseball and football for a while.
Wow. I never had the pleasure of meeting him. I don't think at least that I can remember. I don't ever remember seeing him at the times I went to the museum. But I would still like to extend my condolences to his family and thank him for his service.
The Facebook post alone, the comments have been rolling in. I have not really posted much since we put that up over the past week because it was getting so much action and everything. I didn't want it to slide out of rotation. But the Facebook post alone has had a little over 500,000 reactions, not just views, but reactions.
Right.
And just hundreds of comments and a couple of thousand, I take that back, 500,000 views, a couple of thousand reactions, heart, care, sad face, that sort of thing. And then a few hundred bits of commentary. I'm sorry, I got a bug flying in my face. So, and that's just on Facebook alone. So the family was very, very happy to hear about that people all around the world were, as you guys are in the comment section, sending the condolences over Leroy's passing. So it meant a lot to them today to hear that.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So before we segue into our topic tonight, Mark asked a question. I know the answer, but I will let you answer this.
So when the kid is in the cradle, she is never actually floating. Actually, when she's in the cradle, I'm going to say this, when she's in the cradle system, when she's tied off to those mooring dolphins, she can sit in the cradle when it's high and dry, or when the water is just kind of low. But when the water gets high, she floats up out of the cradle and floats with the Mississippi River. Free floats. Yep. I'd say free floats. She's not tethered to the bottom. She's tethered to those pylons right beside her. Those mooring dolphins.
But she is floating.
She is floating. Mm-hmm. And she was still floating when we got her out of here, because that was why I was like, we really need to go to dry dock, guys.
Right. And you guys got her out at the last minute at that. So our topic tonight, coincidentally, as you mentioned to me maybe yesterday or so, Lee, as you call him, was involved in or on the Kidd when the Kidd was in a collision.
Yeah. Not the type of collisions we're talking about tonight with other vessels as a museum ship, because most of these old ships had a collision or two while in service with another ship or running into something. Lee told the story. They were in New Zealand, Wellington, and I guess maybe it was one of the early Westpac cruises. They hadn't had a lot of U.S. naval presence, and they had 4 destroyers, Desdive 152, Kidd's division, Kidd, Wedderburn, Hopewell, and Ullman, along with, I want to say, the Yorktown. I may be wrong on the carrier. I'd have to go back and look at the article. But they pulled into Wellington, New Zealand, and said the crowd was just so welcoming. They were coming on board, the ships and taking tours And of course, sailors were guiding them around so they didn't get into off-limit spaces. But they just, they're like, hey, have you guys had a chance to go see a movie? Hey, sweetheart, come here. They get their like teenage daughter or teenage son and give them money and take these sailors to the movie or take them to the ice cream parlor, whatever. They just really rolled out the red carpet for all the Navy guys. And at the end of the cruise, or at the end of the port visit, rather, everybody's loading up on the ship. They're getting ready to pull out, and they pulled in the gangway for Kidd and backed out because they were tied up alongside the pier, backed out away from the pier far enough. And everybody's like, bye, so long, see you, bye. And said, captain got a certain distance and then gave the order, hard left rudder, and X amount of speed ahead, and apparently misjudged it. And he said he was standing on the deck watching and said, everybody's waving, yay, big smiles, and said, then the hands kind of slow down and the smile disappears and they all run and they run away. And Kidd nicks the corner of the wharf and the wharf just starts collapsing.
Wow.
So not the greatest mark on the captain in navigating a ship.
Right. So we're going to start off with the type of and this was the idea for tonight's topic was yours, by the way. So of course we're going to start off with Kidd, obviously. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. These are some images you sent me for our stream tonight. This very much looks like a newspaper clipping of Kidd. She just cleared the Horace Wilkinson right here. What's the significance of this?
Well, this is about, let's see, she arrived in Baton Rouge May 23rd, 1982. So this would be May 30th of 82, exactly 7 days later. There's no cradle, no gangway, no walkway, no museum building, nothing. They've dropped anchor in the river at an anchorage. And this is the only photo that exists. I've never found another photo anywhere. Nobody's brought us, any other photos from shore or from tugs or anything. And it looks like this was taken from the top of the Advocate building, which used to be downtown. And the distance is about right. It's too low of an angle for it to be from the top of the Capitol building. But a tow of barges broke loose. And
oh boy,
came downstream and got turned sideways, going across the river, perpendicular to the flow of the river, and slammed right into the Kidd. And she's got that reinforced bow. All the destroyers had that reinforced bow for ramming submarines, and she caught it and she held it like crossing a T. And the barges are sitting there holding, and you can see in the left side of the picture, one of the tug companies nearby, got the radio call, loose tow, catch it before it hits the bridge. Kidd caught it before it hit the bridge and held it. And then is
that what this is right here? Is that a barge?
Yeah, going left to right. The barges. It looks less like she caught like a whole long string, and looks like she caught about 2 there. There may be a third one out to the right. It's really hard to tell, even looking at the newspaper. I would say it's probably about 3 barges, but she caught it and held it. And before it could swing around and kind of scrape up the side, that little tug got onto it and held it. And more tugboats came out and moved them off. The newspaper article is funny because it says, there was no hazardous materials, in the barges or anything. And then it proceeds to list what's in the barges. And some of my engineering, I don't know chemistry, some of my engineering friends saw the caption like chlorinated, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, that wasn't considered hazardous in 82. So
right.
It was hazardous stuff, but, fortunately, Kidd caught it. And if you stand directly in front of Kidd, and you're kind of at the waterline looking up, you can see a dent in her nose. It kind of dented her nose just a little bit. You can still see the remnants of that.
but that's probably going to be fixed in dry dock.
Oh no, it's not worth
Okay.
it. It's a whole bunch of money for nothing. And that's part of her character, part of her history. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
and I actually asked the shipyard. I said, for this, I said, when we were doing the structural survey, I said, look at the bow stem and tell me if it's compromised. And they're like, it's bent, but it's not compromised. I'm like, okay, no danger. They're like, none, it's solid. I'm like, okay.
Nice.
They're like, what is that? I said, she hit a barge, or a barge hit her.
Well, a barge hit her. Yeah.
Barge hit her. So yeah, she's not restored at that point, but she's a museum ship, and she got slammed.
Where's the tug that would have been pulling her? Is it just I'm not in the frame?
It doesn't talk about that in the article. And my theory is, if you've been to the Kidd in Baton Rouge, if you look upriver from us, there are a lot of midstream anchorages, and they'll have these barges tied up and anchored, just 15 or 20 of them in a tow, waiting to be filled up or called for to go upstream or to go downstream, and they'll leave them there. And my theory is something broke loose from one of those anchorages and drifted down.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and look at the next image. What are we looking at here? Is that from the same collision?
No, this is from another collision. Probably, I want to say about a year after that, maybe 2. She's in the cradle at this point, and there is a tug company located behind us. I don't remember the exact name of it. Eventually, it became Tri-G Marine, but I think that was after this. But there's, maybe about 20 feet away from the stern of the Kidd, you've got a whole bunch of little push boats and tugboats all tied up for one of these towing companies. And the captain, the pilot of one of these tugs, got in, started the engines up, and he was busy. His wife had been yelling at him. I don't know what was going on. I was still in grade school at this point, but instead of reversing, he put it in drive, and he drove right into the stern, port side of center line, into the stern of the ship, and split the hull open and dented a lot of it in, just above the water line.
Check out Eric's comment here.
There you go, Eric. Now you know.
Going back to the previous.
And knowing's half the battle. Go, Joe.
G.I. Joe. Okay.
So yeah, this is a close-up.
Yeah, there we go.
You can see the bigger dent now.
Yeah. Right by the one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So yeah, looking at this, and yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen images of the building not being there.
Yeah, and in fact, you can tell it's early on. So that means this is probably spring of '83, because those big electric line towers are still running alongside the levee. And that one that you see on the right is dead center where the building is now. Right. Or actually it's just behind where the building is now. Our current building occupies a spot where there was another building before it that was the Naval Reserve Center. Okay.
So where was everything, how can I ask this, like administration, selling tickets, where was all this done prior to the building?
Administration early on was in the basement of the old state capitol. And then I'll find some paperwork here and there to where they had a post office box somewhere. They were probably picking up mail from a post office box and coming to the old state capitol to do a little bit of work. Tim Rizzuto was there by this point. Tim operated solely off of the ship. So by '83, late, at that point, they're still probably operating out of the old capitol.
Wow.
And you can see, can you roll backwards again? you can see no depth charge track on the stern on the port side.
Oh yeah.
No
Yeah.
gun tubs for the 20 millimeters. So restoration has only just begun, and you'll see
Right.
it in the next picture as well. Some more stuff is missing. So when I saw this photo for the first time, I just about freaked out. And I was talking on the phone to Rizzuto, our first ship superintendent, if you guys haven't heard that name before. He was in charge at this point, and I'm like, wait a minute, y'all cut her open with the river up? It looks like y'all were maybe 3 feet from the river. And he's like, yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you nuts?
He's got some nerve, huh?
Yeah, he's like, had to be done. We couldn't wait for the water to go down. Water wasn't going to go down anytime soon. So yeah, they cut her open. If you are able to zoom in on the platform there a little bit, you see that the girders are still there. The horizontal beams are still there, and you can barely make out one of the verticals. So after I found these, I went in there and looked, and yeah, that vertical still had a bend in it. So they did. It wasn't compromised apparently. I looked at the naval architect's report on it, and apparently it wasn't compromised. So they left it alone. They just pretty much replaced the plating, the shell around it that had been split open and compromised. So when we blasted and painted at Thomasy in the dry dock, for the first time ever, I was able to actually see the footprint of that cutout. Because when they welded a new plate in place, they ground down the welds smooth, but you can still, there's a discoloration in the outline. Yeah. And so when they blasted her rear end for the first time, I could see this silver outline of a square, and I took a picture of it and I sent it to Rizzuto, and I said, I see your repair handiwork now. Yeah, interesting stuff. They don't have the ECM mast up on the after deck house yet. They still have the Cold War radar on there. Lots of little things missing. Mm-hmm. And there's the culprit, Betty Smith. She's still around, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, she bounces around a lot. She's been bought and
quite
sold.
Literally, huh?
Quite
literally, huh? Bounces around.
Yeah, quite literally. I for a while I had Marine Tracker on my phone so that I could track certain vessels and everything. And I put Betty Smith in my whatever her new name is. I put it in my Marine Tracker just in case she started coming up the river. That I could be like, oh, she's coming back. The Port Allen right beside her on the left is still active. She passes the museum all the time. These little tugs have long lives.
Apparently so. Now imagine when you're on your way back to Baton Rouge and you happen to cross paths with the Betty Smith.
I'm gonna put her back in Marine Tracker when we leave. Yeah.
Yeah. Keep your distance.
Yeah, you can still. Looks like they're putting splash zone on there just to seal up the cut until they can figure out how to make the repair.
That's our last kit photo right there.
That's our last kit photo. Okay. So yeah, she's been hit twice as a museum ship.
While we're, I've been meaning to ask you guys this, just a random thought I had in my head recently when we were discussing this topic. I know that essentially, how they say crap rolls down river. Well, quite literally in the case of the Mississippi, and I know stuff hits the ship all the time. Mm-hmm. And you guys have shown pictures of debris that has hit the ship and got caught up in the dolphins. Has there ever been any type of discussion? Is there possible in any way for some type of barrier to prevent crap from hitting the ship?
There's been a lot of discussion on the
You're
internet.
smiling, so yes.
None of it, none of it is feasible in the slightest. The Army Corps of Engineers is very, very cautious about constructing anything that changes the flow of the water, the speed, the flow, the direction of the water that close to the levee. A lot of people have talked about, putting up, barriers to divert and everything, and the Corps is not going to sign off on that. They will not sign off on it in the slightest. Years and years ago, one of the owners of the casino behind us, which has changed hands like the tugboats multiple times, they, for the longest time, the land between us and the casino is ours. 95% of it is ours, out into the right of navigation. At that point, it becomes, I'm trying to kill these bugs. I'm sorry, guys. Until you hit the right of navigation, then it's public property, public land again, public river. And the casino reached out to us because they wanted to put a floating parking garage behind us. And of course, that would have boxed KIDD in completely. And the Navy, in their contracts, make it known, we want you to be able to get the ship out if you have to take it for maintenance, if there's an emergency, what have you. So that idea eventually got shot down, but it wasn't by us. We were like, well, we want to be good neighbors. We'll listen, but you're going to have to convince the Army Corps of Engineers. And from what I heard through the grapevine, the minute they broached the subject with the Army Corps of Engineers, the Corps was just like, you want to do what? No.
So they essentially laughed you out the room.
Because all those pilings that close to the levee would definitely change the flow of the river, the interaction, potentially gouge out under the levee. Who knows? So,
gotcha. Well, I was thinking more of something like floating.
Floating, well, see, there again, if it's floating, you're going to have to attach it to something, which means even if you just put 2 monopiles down, that's potentially going to change some flow, right, at the very least on the surface. The other thing not many people know, because they took the markers down a few years back, unbeknownst to me, they removed the markers for a pipeline. There's a pipeline that runs between the cradle and the levee. It used to be, I want to say they called it Dixie Petroleum or Dixie Oil, something like that. Okay. So it's an old abandoned pipeline, but even so, they don't want you digging up these old pipelines either.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next ship. This is not one of the images you sent me, but I thought this was still relevant to the discussion. We're looking at USS North Carolina, BB-55.
Yeah. Showboat. She shot us once.
Yes, that one, with the star shell.
I remind them of that every September.
Oh, so it's September.
September, late August, early September. I'll have to look the date up again. I think it's September 2nd, but that may be the date of the captain's mast where the guy got in trouble. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got to get somebody from the North Carolina on so you guys can have that discussion. Oh, that would be fantastic.
They're probably sick of me poking them on social media every year, but it's all in good fun. They sent ice cream and cake and everything for the crew. We just have fun with them.
Of course. But this is Google Maps, and we're looking, of course, at a top aerial view of the ship. Because when you texted me the list of ships, and when I saw North Carolina on there, like, if you've been to the North Carolina, I have. She's in a cofferdam. You haven't?
I have not. Okay. I've hit just about everything on the Atlantic coast except for Intrepid and North Carolina. And New Jersey.
So I have been to North Carolina a couple of years ago. For those of us that have, as you can see here, she's in a cofferdam. So when you said North Carolina, I'm like, wait a minute, and then I'm like, okay, this had to have been before the cofferdam was built around the ship.
Right.
And if we go to the photos that you sent me, That's clearly what we're seeing here.
Yeah, they're moving her
Yep.
into a position,
So
and that's
over here is where she would be eventually placed.
yeah,
Okay.
complete wilderness back then. I'm sure it
Yeah.
looks much different now.
Yeah, I could say that. I'm trying to remember how, the layout. Um, it looks like she collided with this boat right here that has Ark Restaurant on it.
Yeah, yeah. Apparently, tight confines, and she, from what I remember reading, she had about 5 feet of clearance off the bottom, which for
Wow.
something that huge is not much.
Right.
And the report that I was reading from the time period said that the Ark there, which was an old concrete hulled vessel that had been gone through numerous owners and uses, and a local businessman had acquired it and turned it into a restaurant, floating restaurant. And they're bringing the bat. They located, where they wanted to put the battleship. They were going to bring it in. Notice was sent out, and he was supposed to move the Ark out of the way, so that there would be plenty of clearance. But according to him, and there's paperwork, there's proof showing that he had set all of this up to happen, but the tugboats didn't show up on time, and so he's stuck sitting there. And as they're maneuvering North Carolina into place, North Carolina takes, and her bow apparently dug in at one shallow point, which caused her to slew a little bit, and they bumped into the Ark, which from our friends at USS KIDD, not all of these are collisions like the hit where well, actually, both of Kidd's hits would not be a collision. They would be what you call an allision, Allison, or Lisson. I'm not good at spelling either. But yeah, an allision is when one is sitting still and the other one drives into you. A collision is when both of you are moving. So
Makes sense when you think about a car accident.
yeah,
It's a collision.
yeah, and it's a legal thing, who's at fault here? Well, collision, it could be either one, and allision, it's probably the one that's moving. But
Right.
yeah, she brushed up against it, and there was reports in the newspaper about equipment from the battleship smashing through windows into the galley on the Ark and knocking
Wow.
over tables and refrigerators and stuff. There were a lot of people. There was a lot of supposition that the tugboats were late on purpose because he told them to hold off, one hoping to draw a hit and have it sink and then collect insurance. So conspiracy theories even back then. I forget when this was, 64, 62, something like that, maybe 60, but yeah, that's so far as I know, that's the last time North Carolina, the showboat, got hit or hit something. She's been in that berth ever since.
Yeah. Oops. Let's see. So this is a color picture of it. Looks like a little wider view. You
Yeah,
can see some of the dock in here.
it looks like they've gotten her gotten the North Carolina off of her now.
Yeah, you can see there's a little more space right
Yeah,
here.
either that or it's just about to hit, one of the two.
Could you imagine being on that tiny little boat and you've got this big, massive warship and it's about to slam into you?
Not fun.
Yeah, that's not a place I want to be.
No, no. Now, what's interesting to me is the Ark, if I remember correctly, was built in the 1920s, 1930s. And I see somebody saying it's made of concrete, wanted a road over time. Possibly, but at this point, she's still around. She's over 100 years old. Well, it had to have been built. Let's see. I'm going to cheat, guys. I'm going to look at my notes on my phone.
but she's
I've
still
been
around
busy this
there.
week, so please forgive me. I don't have all this memorized.
Oh, you're good.
Let's see.
But she's still around.
Yeah, the Ark is still around. She was sold not long after this, maybe about 4 or 5 years after this, if I remember correctly. And and of course it's not in my notes on the phone here. She is in Florida, and I want to say, I'm not sure exactly what they're using her as, but they are still using her, and she is still afloat, and looks in great condition for being over 100 years old. So I'm betting it was sometime in the early 1920s when she was built.
Mr. Overton here saying she does not have a funnel now. I'm guessing he may have seen the ship recently.
Yeah.
He or she, or he, sorry, Mr. Duh. All right. So let's see. We're moving on here. Battleship New Jersey.
Battleship New Jersey.
BB-62. So this looks like the starboard stern here.
I would guess that, yeah. But there's an anchor chain, so I don't know if she has an anchor on the back of her or not.
So what is this right here? What can you tell us about this image?
Well, we have a field day every year at the KIDD, and one of my longtime volunteers comes down from Colorado. He was the neighbor of a KIDD crew member from the 1960s, Hank Tadeucci, boatswain's mate, who taught me a fair bit of rope work. And his name is Dan Cates. And Dan is sitting there one afternoon after we'd finished work for the field day that day. And he said, I was in Philadelphia recently. He said, I said, oh, did you get to go see any ships? He said, well, we were kind of busy, he said, but we did a quick run by of the Olympia. Did you get to go aboard? No, I didn't get to go aboard. So you didn't get to go aboard the submarine either, Bakuna? No. I said, how about, thank you, Mr. Sir Boomswlat. So that is the aft. He said, I did get to go to New Jersey, though. I said, you mean the state or the battleship? He said, the battleship. I said, oh, what's she like? I said, I've got a friend who just started working there. And he laughed. He said, I don't know. I never actually got on board her. I was like, I'm confused. And he whips out his phone and he shows me these pictures that we've got here and coming up. And I said, what is that? He said, we were taking a river cruise, and it was aboard it's the flagship of the state of Pennsylvania. Let's see. And it's called the A.J. Meerwald. It's a sailing vessel, as you can see. And apparently they're going down river on an evening dinner type cruise. And they had some sort of electrical problem, and the wind, they lost power or something. And the wind, because all these sailing ships by Coast Guard law have to have an engine in case they run into trouble. Right. And the wind caught them as they had this failure, and they pushed them right into the New Jersey. So you can look in this picture, and just to the left of that guy in the center of the photo, you can see some busted up wood right there. So it did a little bit of damage. Either that's wood or that's cardboard that they've ripped.
It kind of looks like it's cardboard to me.
Could be. But man, I would not want to be that close with a wooden ship against that steel hull, because that could mess it up real easy.
And I'm having a memory lapse here. How thick do you think the armor is at this spot on New Jersey? It's inches, I would believe.
It's what?
It's got to be inches for sure.
Yeah. I had talked to Travis and to Ryan when we first started our channel, because I was going to give a comparison video, a visual
Hull
diagram
thickness.
comparison between Kidd's thicknesses, Texas and
New Jersey.
New Jersey. And of course, Texas has an armor belt. And when I talked to Ryan, he was like, well, it depends. It's going to be this or it's going to be this, because they didn't just lay armor over the hull. He said they actually integrated the armor into the hull. He said, so it's a different system than what Texas has. So I don't recall, but yes, you're correct. It would be inches thick.
Yeah.
Which, with that much steel, that's considerable.
Right.
All they're going to do really is scrape the paint up on the side of the battleship, which by itself is bad enough because, corrosion. It's not just slapping paint on the hull anymore like they did when they were in service. We have so many fewer people on a museum ship to take care of so much maintenance. So the paint, like the paint that's going on Kidd right now, it's not just slapping paint on it. It's a coating system that they've done. They've done it a certain way, at certain thicknesses, and integrated certain types to get you the best protection for the longest amount of time, because they know that we're not going to be able to have the money or the manpower to just go down and slap paint on it.
Right. I'm off topic a bit, but I'm reminded of a comparison between Kidd and Missouri here with the kamikaze attack on Kidd. As we know, the bomb went clean through the ship.
Yes.
And whereas Missouri was hit by a kamikaze, and it essentially bounced off of Missouri.
Fortunately.
To give you an idea, of the differences. But anyway, this is the next one you got.
Somebody's in trouble.
Yeah. I would think so.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a great shot here.
Yeah, that's looking forward there.
Yeah. I hope this wasn't the poor guy that was the captain of the boat or anything. He would be the guy they're coming for.
I don't know, but I'm sure it messed up the Meerwald, and it took me about a week to figure out that it was the Meerwald. I'm looking at all the boats that are on the internet, trying to compare what clues that you see here, compare them and see which one it might be. And Meerwald was one of my suspects, and then I talked, I think it was this morning, to a friend who lives in Philadelphia, and I sent him the picture, and he's like, "Oh, that's the Meerwald." I'm like, "You sure?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the Meerwald." I'm like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Thank you very much. We appreciate it." And he's somebody that would know. So
okay, but
he was living in town at that time.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what inspired this idea for you was the fact that the Midway got hit last week. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I saw a lot of comments online where they were under the impression that this was the first time a museum ship has ever been struck. And I'm like, oh, no. That's far from
not even close.
Not even close. And I'll say this, folks, there are probably more hits out there that I don't know about than what we're talking about tonight. So if you know about some that we don't discuss, send it to us in the comments. We'd love to, maybe we can do a part 2.
Absolutely. Eric's got a good comment here.
The painting is actually the 5% of the job. The prep work is the 95% of the job that I hate. I don't mind painting as long as I get to paint and be done with it. But doing all the stuff that goes into getting it ready is the pain.
See, that's news to me as well. I did not know this.
I had heard that, but I don't have any details on any of it. And there's a lot of people that, when I commented to that effect online, they were like, well, she got hit, over here. And I'm like, yeah, but that's while she was in service. We're talking about when she was a museum ship. So,
exactly.
Yeah, was that Eric? Not Eric.
Yes. No, sorry. That was Booms a Lot.
Yeah. So Booms a Lot. If you know details on those previous hits, and if it was a museum ship, let us know.
Yeah. So we're going to move on to our next ship that was in a collision. And coincidentally, not many people may know this, but this ship was also in Louisiana at one point. And here we go.
Ah,
USS
yes.
Orlick.
USS Orlick. This is when she was in Lake Charles.
Yep.
Yeah. Hurricane Laura 2020, I think it was. You can see in this map, this is from NOAA. You can see that starting at the bottom left of the picture, that's where they had Orlick tied up. And I was under the impression for the longest time until this incident happened that she was sitting in the Calcasieu River. But the Calcasieu River is actually that brown waterway to the north, toward the upper corner. This is a spur, almost like an oxbow lake, a channel that comes off of the river. And maybe it was part of the old course of the river, and then the river cut away through some soft ground and reformed her channel and left this behind. But when you go up to the wording at the top, when you trace that around, come on around, James, with your icon, it goes up and it makes a loop and comes back down, and you see the bluish water come over to your left, come down a little more, right there. You got the bluish water, and then you got the brownish water. The brownish water is the active river. The bluish water is still water in this channel that's been cut off. They put a dike. They built a dike across there, just to make sure that the river didn't cut back through again. And so this was just still water, and they turned it into kind of like a little port area. You can see all the businesses along the bank. And Orlick was tied off at the bottom. The hurricane came in. She broke loose with the storm surge and the wind, and a whole bunch of barges and other stuff broke loose along with her, and they all ended up in a pile up at the upper end. Look at that, by the 30 right there. All those boats
right here.
pushed together, ships pushed together.
Yeah.
They all ended up in a pile, and you can see Orlick is facing upstream. And my reaction was, wait, she went against the current? Because again, I thought it was in the river. But her bow is actually resting on that barge. So it lifted her up and put her on top of that barge.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're talking about right here.
Yeah. And because of that incident there, when we were in dry dock visiting Orlick in Port Arthur before she went to Jacksonville, she had a big notch kind of sliced into her nose just below where the hawse pipes were for the anchors. And they were, Gulf Copper was kind of cutting into that and cleaning it up and everything. And I asked Steve, who was her ship superintendent in Lake Charles, I said, is that from the hurricane? He said, oh yeah. He said she just plowed right into one of these ships, and it tore the front, tore a big gash in her nose. Wow. So she got that. She got one of her boat davits almost completely ripped off. It was like laying aft, almost completely pulled down. They lashed it to the deck house to secure it until they could get to dry dock. And then some of the superstructure on the starboard side was just really banged up from slamming into something in that pile of ships there. Orlick had a rough time in Hurricane Laura.
That raises a question. And I know you may not know as to Orlick, but you can answer for KIDD. Mm-hmm. Are the watertight doors, are they still function on KIDD? And has there ever been a situation where she's a museum ship where you've had to use them?
For Orlick, I cannot answer that. I don't know.
Right. But for KIDD,
for KIDD, well, actually, I take that back. For Orlick, from talking with Steve, when they left Lake Charles to go to Port Arthur, she had to loop out and go into the Gulf and then come back in by Sabine Pass to get to Port Arthur. Quick little trip, but still, she was out in the Gulf. Yes, the Coast Guard required them to make sure that their watertight doors were still secure. Because we talked to all these folks ahead of time that had gone to dry dock to see what they did in prepping. And I was like, how did you test your watertight doors? He said, chalk test. Coast Guard was fine with a chalk test. So that's what we did with KIDD. And yes, KIDD's watertight doors, with the exception of one, were all watertight below the main deck.
Yeah. So like when you went to dry dock, we know you had to go downriver, you had to go out into the Gulf. Did you have the watertight doors closed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Open it, walk through, close it. So yes, there are, Matt. We have not offered them yet online because our store can not handle it yet. But yes, if you are in the vicinity of Baton Rouge, you can go to the ship store and you can buy a rivet.
Or more rivets, or a few rivets.
Yeah, we're trying. Part of the thing that we're trying to do with the ship store, and part of the reason we haven't thrown them online yet, is because we don't want the whole problem that you get with like ticket scalpers, to where somebody will buy 100 rivets and then, now that they've got them, then they'll start selling them for even more. Right. We want everybody to have a chance at them. So we're trying. The current store system doesn't put a governor on how many you can purchase in a single sale. So that's why we haven't thrown it up yet. But yes, you can go and buy it in person at the museum store. And they're working on getting a different sales system online so that we can throw it out there for everybody around the country that can buy rivets if they want. There's two types. Large ones are $50. Small ones are $35, I believe.
And Eric's, I like Eric's comment. Wish I'd have known that. I was there a couple of weeks ago. Eric, they are at the very front counter, right where you purchase your ticket.
All right, buddy. They're right in front of you.
Yep, they're right there. I noticed them.
I know that makes you feel so much better, Eric. I'm sorry for that.
It's for what it's worth. I saw them and I didn't get them either, but they are on my agenda, obviously, because look, see right there, that is a piece of teak deck from the Alabama. This is a piece of teak deck right here from the Texas. I must have a piece of KIDD. I know these are original rivets to the ship, correct?
Yes. I picked them up off the dry dock floor. If they weren't picked up by me, they were picked up by Parks or Molly or some of the actual shipyard workers. This gives you an example of why we love Thomas E so much and why we chose Thomas E. These folks will be sitting on the dry dock floor under the ship. They've been welding, they've been cutting, they've been moving heavy stuff around. They get their lunch break, they're sitting there, and here I come. I'm walking with a bucket and just kind of kicking, blasting debris and stuff. There's a rivet, and pick it up, drop it in the bucket. And they see me doing that. And after they finish eating, they've still got time to relax and everything. But they get up and they walk around and they start bending over and they're picking stuff up and everything. And they walk over and just drop it in the bucket and just give me a thumbs up and keep walking. And they spend 5-10 minutes of their lunchtime picking up rivets with me. I was on board the ship and I had my bucket with me because I didn't want to just leave it and somebody think it's trash and throw it, in the dumpster. Right. And this lady came up to me and my Spanish is horrible. And she was talking to me in Spanish and I'm like, no habla español. And she just smiled and patted my arm and she's like, gesturing come. And so I followed her and she goes way down into the bottom of the aft section of the ship into Shaft Alley, into our, what we use for plumbing storage. And she had been working on one of the plates at the water line that had been replaced right there in that space. And she shines her light in the shelf there, and there's this huge pile of rivets. She collected them for me as they were removing the plate. And she just gave me 2 thumbs up, and I'm like, "Thank you, gracias, gracias." And she leaves. She just laughs and leaves. And I sit there and I'm like, "Okay, this is huge. How many is it?" And I counted as I put them in. 89 rivets that she saved for me for 2 weeks until I came back, and she made sure we got them. So Thomas E's people are just fantastic. Are we going to do anything with the rudder piece that got cut off? Very likely it will be made into souvenirs, and that will be available as well. We haven't done anything with it yet because we're busy restoring the gun directors, the 20 millimeters, torpedo directors, searchlights, everything that's got to go back on via a crane. So that's further down the road after we get all that stuff remounted, but it's coming.
Right. Getting back to our ships here.
Yeah.
We're still on the Orlick right now.
Mhm.
This looks like it's just a tighter shot of what we just saw.
Yes.
And you can see it a little better in this one where like you were talking about the bow.
She's riding
resting
up on
essentially
that
on
barge.
this, yeah, on that barge. Let's see.
And that tells you the force behind those storm surges. You always hear storm surge, storm surge, storm surge. It moved all of those ships up there.
Well, and we were talking about this yesterday, you and I, and my memory of the aftermath of Flora, of course, Lake Charles on the opposite end of the state from us, but you still get the news from there.
Mhm.
There was a casino boat that broke its moorings as well. That was actually in the Calcasieu River and hit the old I-10 bridge.
Yeah, I want to say, and my apologies if I'm wrong, I think that was the Isle of Capri casino over on the West Bank on Westlake. And yeah, I watched that happen real time.
Wow.
Somebody had a storm cam that they pivoted, and I watched her drift into the base of the bridge.
Wow. Yeah, I did not see that live.
Because I heard something about a ship broke loose in Lake Charles. I'm like, oh crap, Orlick. And I tuned in and I'm like, that's not Orlick. Wait, that's the I-10 bridge. She's not even close to the I-10 bridge. She'd be going the other way.
Are we still looking at Orlick here? That looks.
You are looking at Orlick, but you are looking at Orlick let's see, this is 2003. So about 17 years earlier. This is in Orange, Texas.
Okay, you can see this looks different, way different.
Yeah. So Hurricane Rita, just a few weeks after Katrina hit, Rita hits on the west side of the state and does, I would say, easily as much damage. You just didn't hear about it as much to the Lake Charles area, to the Port Arthur area, and all through East Texas and West Louisiana. And let me get to that in just a second, Karen. The Orlick was originally brought from Turkey back to Orange, Texas, because that's where she was built. And so they set up a veterans memorial there in the museum on board the ship. And Rita caught her and slammed this crane barge. You can see the crane extending out over the street there, and slammed the crane barge into her. And so they took Orlick away to the shipyard after they got it secured and stabilized. And she went to the shipyard, got her repairs. And when she came back, that's when she got notified that there'd been a change of heart and they didn't want her there anymore. And she had to start looking for a home real quick. And she ended up ultimately going to Lake Charles. But Rita and forcing her to go to dry dock unexpectedly kind of changed the tides for her.
Yeah.
So Orlick has been kind of a hard luck ship when it comes to hurricanes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's get to this question real quick.
Yeah. Do we do anything in preparation if there's a hurricane? By and large, most of our preparation is on shore. For Kid herself, 90% of the time when there's a hurricane season catches us up, and we're in the middle of it, and I'm saying the H word. So my superstition just got kicked off. When the H words come, that season comes, usually we're high and dry in the cradle. The river is low enough at that point. We don't have to worry about anything running into us. It's going to drag bottom before it even gets close to us. And if it's late in the season, it's going to have to ride up on the ground and hit us. So we're not really in danger of shipping any water. If there's, we're not in danger of a collision or an allision, but we do take any movables depending on the intensity of the storm. If it's just like a tropical storm or maybe a Cat 1, we lash everything down that's movable, like benches, that sort of stuff. Trash, we put trash cans inside, all of that, and then we dog the watertight doors down on the weather decks and the O1 level down really good. We'll cut the tarp off when you first walk on board. You got that little tarp over the quarterdeck area for the guests. We'll cut that loose if it's going to be more than a tropical storm, and stow that away, and just make sure everything's good and tight and lashed down. And then the big thing we have to deal with is the P40 over on shore. We put some extra lashings on it because it's got plenty of cables holding it up, but there's nothing holding it down but gravity. And so if you get an updraft on that thing, it can pick it up and then drop it, and then that shock on those cables could do damage. So we tie it down as well as what's tying it up.
Right.
And then any movables, some of the city trash cans in our vicinity, anything like that, we move indoors and start praying, because it's a glass building, and I hate that building for its design. It was one of the worst designs they could have ever come up with back then. But it is what it is. It is what it is. We just have to deal with it. But we've begun closing in some of those windows, A, to save electricity on heating and cooling, B, to stop UV from destroying our artifacts, and C, to protect against storm damage and vandalism. We've replaced over $100,000 of glass in the past 20 years, 30 years. So during, say, a tropical storm or a Cat 1, does anybody stay with the ship? No, we do not stay with the ship or with the building. We have flood alarms. I'm able to tell remotely if we've lost power, which 9 times out of 10 we do. It's not worth having somebody sitting in that glass house waiting for debris to come through and potentially hurt them. Not for windows that big, no.
Yeah, not for those.
These are double paned windows. They're thick, but if something's going to hit it hard enough to break those double pane windows, then tape's not going to help. Before dry dock prep started, Matt, I was actually working on a video telling the history of the P40. I'll tell you the big secret that video is. It's not really a secret. We talk about it, but most people don't hear it. It's not really a plane. It's a replica. And there's been 2 of them, and both of them are replicas. The first one had some original parts to it, the wings and the cockpit. The rest of it was spit, baling wire, and bondo and chicken wire. And the second one is a fiberglass aluminum replica decked out with original parts from a P40. And it was actually in Tora 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 and the Steven Spielberg comedy 1941. Wow. John Belushi sat in that cockpit.
No kidding. I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Hopefully, after I get done with dry docking, I can finish that video.
Yeah, for real. Well, let's move on to our next ship. We've got a tall ship coming up here.
Okay.
can you tell us about this one?
Tall ship Alyssa out of Galveston. I had never heard of this, and I'll tell you the way I discovered a lot of these. That I knew about North Carolina. I knew about the New Jersey one, which the New Jersey one, by the way, doesn't show up anywhere on the internet. But the Alyssa I found basically was doing one of her, doing one of her sail ops. She'll go sailing out into Galveston Bay on a regular basis, and she was doing one of these, and she was coming back in the channel, and it was kind of a constricted area that she was maneuvering through. She had her engine running to help navigate, so it wasn't all on sail. And a tanker was coming through the channel at the same time. And apparently they were both going in the same direction. Alyssa was outpacing the tanker, but the draw of the tanker pushing through the water kind of sucked her in to the front of the tanker, and she damaged the bowsprit, the little pole that juts out the front of the ship. She damaged that there. The Coast Guard in the newspaper article kind of downplayed it. They're like, we're investigating everything, but nobody was harmed, nobody was hurt, and very little damage to the Alyssa. So it almost sounds like, I never saw any follow up on the article. It sounds like probably somebody got yelled at, maybe got a fine or something, but no serious damage to her, which is great because she goes all the way back to 1877.
Wow.
She's a beautiful ship. I actually got to ride her from New Orleans to Baton Rouge when she came to visit in 96 to the Kidd. And then about a year later, we got invited to go to.
That's on my end. Sorry.
Oh, okay. We got invited.
Somebody's got a need for speed.
We got invited to go to Galveston and go out on one of those sail events. Hello,
hey, Molly.
Molly. We got invited to go to one of those sail events and cruised out into Galveston Bay for the day. Very nice. Loved working with all those people at Seaport, Galveston Seaport.
So what's this ship? What is this ship here?
That is our good friend Dickie from Greyhound. This is HMCS Sackville up in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And she is a Flower class corvette. What you see her doing as Dickie, call sign Dickie in Greyhound, is exactly what she did during World War II. She escorted convoys back and forth from Canada to Great Britain, and part of the way, pick them up halfway out and bring them back in, that sort of stuff, which is why she's located there at Halifax. She is on my bucket list. I have never gotten up to see her, but particularly after our Greyhound connection, she's definitely on my bucket list.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And my good friend, Commander Sherry Richardson, has worked with her for decades. Sherry is a force of nature. She is an awesome lady to talk to. She's got so much history herself.
She was unfortunately involved in one of the worst collisions we're going to talk about tonight.
Yes. Yeah, not Sherry, but Sackville.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Dickie.
Dickie. So this is the Lorinda.
Yeah.
And the Lorinda is not a historic ship. She's not quite a replica from my reading up on her. She's moored right near Sackville, and she was the brainchild of a gentleman who had dreamed since he was a small child that he wanted to build one of these tall ships. And so he started with kind of the blueprints, so to speak, of one of one of the old sailing ships and started adapting it. And I don't, James, did you have one of her under sail at all?
No, this was the
No.
only one I found.
So here
There
she looks like kind of like a standard standard tall ship, standard tall ship, standard tall ship, standard tall ship. Okay, 3 times fast. But if you go and Google her, you will find that she's actually, her sail rigging is set up like a Hong Kong junk. And she's got big, flamboyant, red, Chinese shaped sails.
I did see that picture. It was just too pixelated, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't have made for a good
Yeah.
part of the
Looks
slideshow.
beautiful. I'd love to see her in person under sail. It would be fabulous.
Oh,
But
sure.
she was berthed nearby, and Hurricane Hugo, I think it was, came through in the early 2000s, and everybody prepared for it, and Sackville Dickey broke loose from her moorings, much like Orlick did, and she slammed into Lorinda. And Lorinda's owner, I think, if I remember correctly, lived on her by that point, and operated her, lived on her and operated from her. And the crew, they said the crew was on board, but I get the feeling it's him and his wife were on board, just reading between the lines. But nobody got hurt, but it immediately started water ingress in Lorinda, and she ended up sinking completely. And I think we have a picture of that. Yeah, that's Lorinda on the bottom, and Dickey is off to the side there. The weather still looks pretty horrible. And our thanks to Mr. You can see the watermark on the bottom, and apologies if I mispronounce this, Mr. Sven Torsk from Norway. I contacted him on Facebook and asked permission to use this photograph, and he very generously allowed us to do so. So thank you for that. And yes, it was 2003. So yeah, this turned into a very bad situation. They refloated her, but the cost of the repairs for her was so huge that unfortunately her owner had to sell her. He couldn't keep her. I mean, this was his childhood dream. And I don't believe she was a museum ship. I believe she was, Dickey was the museum ship. I believe she was just a sail ship.
She was a privately owned ship.
Privately owned sailing ship that you could go on cruises on. And that's the way she's being used today. So she was saved, but he had to sell her to somebody else, and they had the funding to restore her and get her back into shape. And she's still up there today. There was litigation. There was a lawsuit that Sackville was not moored properly, and thus resulted in this loss, and that the trust that runs Sackville was at fault. And it got to the court system, and the judge looked at everything and said everything that could have been done to moor the Corvette was done. This was simply an act of God. And so that resulted in the owner having to sell her. So,
and thus no insurance payout. So
I don't know about that.
Is that why?
I don't know about that, but whatever the case, he didn't have the funding needed to put her back to rights.
Because, of course, that's what's honestly, as you're telling the story, that's what's going through my mind, was the ship not insured. And
don't know that. It never spelled that out in any of the articles that I read about it. So,
gotcha.
He took a cruise to the Virgin Islands in a ship very similar.
I think that is our last slide, Tim, but we're not quite done with this topic yet.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me pull up something here. A friend of yours also gave us permission to use this. Let's see.
Oh, is this Evan?
Yes.
Oh yeah, our friend Evan Cern Iacone. It's an Italian name, maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But Evan, he runs the COD's YouTube channel. And this is from when COD was leaving Cleveland to go to Don John Shipyards back in 2021, I think,
Okay.
to go to her own dry docking.
So I didn't realize she was dry docked so recently.
Hmm. She's one of
Do
the
you have
ones
the
that we
audio?
consulted with.
I do have the audio muted. There's light profanity in it. That's why. So, but
Submariners.
I mean, we can clearly see what's going on here.
Yeah. So yeah, they're easing her away from her location. I have not seen this video. I've only seen still shots of what we're going to see.
She's a Gato, correct? She looks
E-
like a Gato. She looks like the drum.
I'm not gonna say she's a Gato or a Baleo because I don't know, but I can Google it if you want.
I was just curious, but I think she is. She looks a lot like the drum to me. Booms, yeah, there we go. Yeah,
Oh, you got it? Okay.
yeah. Boom
Gato.
says she's a Gato. Eric
Yeah.
says she's a Gato. Yeah, everyone's saying Gato. Yeah, she looks like a Gato to me. And here we go. Watch right here.
This is going to be an elision, not a collision, but an elision. And by the way, this is a Coast Guard vessel in the way. They knew it was happening. They didn't move. Maybe they were trying to draw insurance.
You can see where this boat, the Morro Bay, she jerks right there.
And somebody backs up really fast.
Yep. You can see where the stern of the ship kind of moves in.
Oh, wait, superstructure. Yes, he's backing away even more. Oh, wow.
Full link to this video in the description, guys, by the way, if you want to go back and watch this with the audio. And subscribe to, you said his name is Evan?
USS KIDD, yes.
USS KIDD.
Yeah.
I met someone at the KIDD when I went to my Texas restoration tour. I forget his name, though. It was an older gentleman. I wish
Wouldn't
I
have been
had his
Evan.
name.
Evan's still wet behind the ears, the little turd.
Okay, no, this was an older gentleman.
Evan makes me feel old every time we talk on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a great guy. I love him. He's a good friend. In fact, I'm trying to get him to come down to dry dock to visit Kidd.
Okay.
But
nice.
yeah, the minor damage on the Coast Guard cutter, but they talked about this elision when we were at Mobile in 2022 or 21, whatever it was, 22, I think it was, at the Battleship Alabama for the HINSA symposium. And apparently the commander of the cutter and has I think there's some sort of scoreboard thing that they've made they got a submarine up on it now, and the captain is kind of proud of being the only living Coast Guard captain that's been attacked by a submarine.
Hey, that is kind of cool.
You can't really blame him because I'm sure he got yelled at for not moving his ship, but
right.
he made hay. So
well, not only was he attacked by a Gato class sub, but he lived to tell the tale.
He and his ship survived an attack by a Gato class sub. There you go.
I dig it. Tim, that was our last bit of slides and images there.
We should have another photo in there from way up north in Albany. We don't have that.
Oh,
yeah.
I think I can arrange something real quick here.
Yeah.
We should have talked to him today. He should have been here.
Who's that? Rizzuto? Rizzuto doesn't get on the internet.
No, wait. You said Albany. My mind went
Albany, New
to.
York. Yeah, maybe.
I
There's not
think I
much to
did.
see.
Okay. Well, I mean,
So Slater is, and apparently got a little too close. I don't know if she lost power or what. I don't remember the exact story, but she came in and came into contact and almost avoided it, but her wooden railings caught onto the depth charge tracks where they stick out off of the fantail. They stick out maybe about 3 or 4 feet, just like kids, which is why you've seen in our videos when we got to Thomas C, they made a slight adaptation to where they put connection points on the deck so that we can bolt those tracks into place instead of welding them into place, so that we can remove them when we get ready to go home, because they jut out off the back end of the ship, and the push boats, the tugs, will just crunch them up if we don't do that. So they didn't want to weld after they got the ship all painted and everything, and this makes it easier for us if we ever have to go to dry dock again. Then they unbolt it, slide them out of the way, and they're good to go. So Dutch Apple caught one of those depth charge tracks, and the video that I've seen in the past, you hear that wood just snap, crack, crack, and then you just see the depth charge track is not really moving, but as Dutch Apple slides away, there's a little bit of vibration. Didn't do anything but ding Slater's paint, but man, it tore up some very pretty wood on the Dutch Apple. So,
wow.
yeah. And again, just like Midway, everybody's seen Midway on the thing. How can you not see the ship there, right? So
How did you not see an
yeah,
aircraft carrier? I think is everybody's question.
yeah. And like New Jersey, like some of the other stuff, there's a power failure, there's something out of the ordinary, but yeah, the question arises, if you've got full control of your ship, how is that happening? But
Right.
yeah.
Because they said something about the articles, and I read a couple of different articles about it. They all said something to the effect of $100,000 worth of damage to the Midway.
And we were talking about that. I don't think, and I haven't talked to any of the Midway guys, so I'm not trying to speak out of turn or everything, but I would be shocked that little boat could actually do that much damage to her steel. I would bet, and this is just a guess, I would bet that $100,000 is the coating system on the ship, because they're going to have to bring it down and feather it in and then reapply this coating system, and the prep work for that, like, who was it, Eric, somebody was commenting about how they hate painting, and we were talking about
Yeah,
the
that
prep.
was Eric.
All the prep, you're in California. California is very, very eco conscious about stuff, and so I know for a fact the Coast Guard, wherever you're at in the country, requires you to put up nets and booms when you're painting over the side, so that none of the paint gets in the water, and then you've got to collect it and dispose of it. And California, with all of its tighter ecological laws and everything, safety, than the rest of the country, I'm sure that price shoots up. And then, of course, California's prices in general much higher than cost of living there than in Louisiana. So,
oh, sure, of course.
I'm sure that's a large part of it. But again, I haven't talked to the Midway guys. I don't know, if there was physical damage beyond just the coating system, but that would be my best guess.
Right.
But I don't have an aircraft carrier. What do I know? I don't want an aircraft carrier.
You got enough with one ship, right?
I got enough with one destroyer. So yeah, there were several others that I don't have any video. I don't have any stuff on. There's one you and I talked about, and I looked desperately for this photo. Hurricane Ike. Which one hit Galveston? Was it Ivan or Ike?
Ike.
Ike. Hurricane
Yeah.
Ike picked up Kavala and Stewart and lifted them out of their dry berth with the storm surge. Now, that in itself does not count as a museum ship collision, but when the water began dropping and letting them sit back down on the ground, there was a sailboat that apparently had sunk and was being pushed with the storm surge. And I'm wanting to say Slater. It's not Slater. Stewart just slammed right down on top of the sailboat, crushing it and rolling a little bit to one side, outside of her trench that she was in. So does that count as a collision and allision? Two ships collided, but one of them was already sunk at the time. I saw pictures of it at some point, and I cannot find copies of those pictures on the internet anywhere. But the viewpoint was looking down off of Stewart and seeing a sailboat hull sticking out from under her. It was a very surreal image.
This is the closest thing I can find. This is
You can see she's tilted, and it was under her. Let's see. It was under her port side. It kind of looks like you can see a little. Well, no, that's just water. I was going to say it looks like you can see a little bit of her on the starboard, but she's canted a little bit, and that sailboat would be over on the port side.
And look over here. Look, this is a conning tower for another sub. I forget which sub it is, and I've seen this up close. It's this thing got, if I remember correctly, is like actually over here somewhere closer to the Kavala. So if I'm remembering right, that like this thing got completely displaced.
Yeah, and as I remember, Kavala got lifted up and basically pushed back, but she sat back down in the trench just straight on, but the back end was kind of canted up a little bit because she was out of the trench back there. Stewart was a little bit cockeyed, and of course had the sailboat underneath her. So not a good day ships.
Kavala is a Gato. She's in a hunter-killer configuration, much like her sister up in New York, USS Croker.
Let's see. And let's see. Something else that the sail training ship, I'm going to mangle this name, Leeuwin the second. Leeuwin? In 2024, she's Australia's largest sail training ship, considered a museum ship, and she was severely damaged after being struck by a container ship, the Maersk Chaco in Fremantle. And the collision reportedly was caused by the Chaco encountering sudden squalls while attempting to berth, and the impact tore down the Leeuwin's masts and rigging and caused damage to the Western Australian Maritime Museum building. 2 crew members aboard the Leeuwin sustained injuries and were hospitalized. So not a good time. Another storm-related collision.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, if you everybody out in the chat, if you know of any other collisions or allisions with museum ships, again, not while they were in service, because that's a whole different ball game.
Oh yeah.
Kidd had a pretty, not counting the kamikaze, Kidd had a pretty severe one in 1953 in Long Beach, almost severed her bow. So that's par for the road for the Navy, their Navy careers. But as a museum ship, typically they're usually a little more sheltered and out of the traffic stream for a port. So they're a little bit more rare, but as we've seen tonight, it has happened more than just once. So if you know of any, let us know in the comments. Even after we shut down the stream, go back and let us know in the comments, because it'll pop up, and maybe we can find enough to where we can do a second one.
Absolutely. But Tim, I think we're at stream's end here. where can people go to learn more and support USS Kid?
Well, we have a link tree. So if you hit any one of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, Patreon, Discord, what's the
Discord is
last?
part of your Patreon, though, correct?
What's that?
Discord is part of your Patreon, though, correct?
No, you can actually visit our Discord and talk to us on Discord,
Okay.
separate from Patreon. I know the two usually work together, but Omar got out before I could really learn a whole lot about Discord. From what I understand, Discord is used a lot by the gaming community.
I think so.
Yeah, and since I'm not a gamer because I'm a gaming addict, I stay away from that. But I will talk to you about Kid and maybe a little bit about World of Warships, but I'm not going to know a whole lot about the gaming systems. I have to stay away from that, or I'll lose my job, my wife, my dogs. It'll be bad. But yeah, you can hit us on any of those platforms. Our website, USSKIDD.com, is where you go to donate, and you can even help earn money for the kid by going and watching. Go to our dry dock playlist, put it on repeat, and let it play all night, even if you've seen all of them already, because it's monetized and it'll play for hours, and we'll pick up a little change from that.
Yep, it definitely works.
Yeah.
Well, everyone in chat, guys, regardless of which channel you're watching on, we thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. I really enjoyed this topic. I hope you guys did too. So,
It was fun.
Tim, thanks for coming and sharing all that information with us.
Yeah, and I will tell the chat, we had another guest that we were trying to recruit, but unfortunately he was not able to clear his calendar. I didn't give him enough of a heads up. We were trying to get the one and only Ryan Szymanski on board, but he is otherwise occupied this evening. But he said we come up with enough advance notice and a good topic, he's happy to jump in and hang out with us. So maybe we can get Ryan on. James is reaching out to some other folks to talk to, with me or without me. So yeah, good stuff coming.
And I have an idea, and I'll explain this to you off camera after we're finished. But I've got an idea for a topic that I'm going to pitch to Parks and see if he's interested.
Okay. If it's about ocean liners, I'll be dead weight on that conversation. So you probably want Parks.
Right.
You probably want Parks because my eyes glaze over. It's just not my area of interest. But
yeah.
I don't wish anybody any ill that is interested in that.
Well, of course not.
I know. God, what is it? The Tank Museum. Their YouTube channel is huge. I know next to nothing about tanks, but man, they've got a following. I'm envious.
Good deal. Oh, you guys do a book club. If you guys, I think I wanted to comment on this last week and I did not. I recently finished a book about the USS Tang. I think you may be familiar with the Tang.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Most successful U.S. submarine, accidentally torpedoed herself, went down in 187 feet of water. Some people actually got out and survived the experience. But that was just the beginning of a nightmare for them. Read the book.
Okay.
Or a book about it.
Sir Boomsalot, if the links don't work here, just shoot them to the kids' social media, and I'll be able to get them. That's great.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate you guys, and everyone enjoy your weekends, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.